All right, this is an Olympic and powerlifting program. This is phase 2, session 3. So if you want more information on how to do the sets and the reps, you got to check out the intro video. And you should kind of understand it by now because you want to do phase 1 before you do phase 2. But let's go over these moves. So warm-up movements first. I'm going to start with a suitcase deadlift. Preferably if I have a kettlebell for this, I can use dumbbells too. And well, I'll start from the top here. And basically it's a one-side loaded deadlift. You're going to have your feet together for this, just so that you can keep the weight as close to your body as possible. So feet together, and then I'm going to hinge at the hips, load up the hamstrings, reach for the weight straight down, and then I'll just stand up with it. And going through this motion and trying to keep your shoulders level as you're going for it, and it just works your hips, your knees, your ankles, your abdominals, and your shoulder stability. You have to be working all of that to keep your body square. It's a great complementary exercise to add into your Olympic and power lifts. Kneeling hip circles are next. Kneeling down, and then I'll just kick the leg back and then circle it around. Kick back, circle around. Full extension of your knee and your hip. And then open the knee to the side and curl it around. Arm swings. This is where I'm going to reach up in the air with one arm while I reach the other arm back behind me. So you see where I end up here. So I'm really getting a stretch on either end of the movement. Good. Next, you're going to do shoulder stretch across. So I'm just going to reach one arm across my body and assist with the other hand a little bit to get the stretch across my deltoid. The next one is a shoulder hug stretch. So let your shoulder blades detract and give yourself a hug. Make sure you're getting both hands on top. And then the last one will be a split stretch. So I'm just going to come down into the splits and go down as far into it as I can. And if you can go all the way down, that's great. Working on your mobility in that way. And just a note on stretching, don't stretch too far too soon, especially on that one, this inner thigh. If you're tight there and you go too far, just be smart about it. Okay, going into strength. Push press, barbell push press. So I'd want to take this one from a rack usually. I want my bar to be set up on a rack. I don't have a rack in here, but this one you definitely want to take it from there. So I take it out, and first thing, I walk it out, and I want to establish the rack position, okay? So you can notice that the bar is on my shoulders. In order to get it on my shoulders, so if I had my elbows back like this, it's all in my hands. I'm not going to be able to be very successful with this exercise if all the weight's in my hands. I got to rotate through so the weight gets onto the shoulders. And so I think about bringing the elbows forward a little bit and then squeezing them in to create the shelf of my shoulders, so to lift my shoulders to take the bar. Okay, good. Now I'm going to set my feet right underneath my hips. I'm going to then begin with a dip where I'm just going to send my hips back a little bit, opening up my hamstrings, and I'm just going down this little bit right here. I'm keeping the weight in my heels at this point. Then I drive through the heels, and then I get the momentum carries me up on my feet. Then I finish through landing on my heels again, and I achieve an overhead position here. Back down, and this time you see what kind of tempo you want in your dip. It's dip, and then it's drive. Dip, and drive. And getting a full overhead position every single time. You would want to have really been working on that part of the motion already in phase 1 by working on your strict press. Now we're adding the dip and drive. Good, and clean deadlifts are next. So in phase 1 you did regular deadlifts. In phase 2 it'll be clean style deadlifts, and the difference is subtle. It's as much about your mentality as anything. So you're thinking in your mind, instead of just completing the lift to here, you have to imagine that you're going to end up going for your clean and flipping it around when you're doing this, but you're just going to stop at the same point that you did for your deadlift. So I'll come here and I'll just finish through like this. The other difference, there's going to be a little bit of change in your position of your body. So this is my powerlifting style deadlift. I'll be about here. And for my Olympic lifting deadlift, I'm going to shift shoulders back and hips down a little bit. And really, I'm going to be sacrificing a little bit of strength by changing my body positioning there. But that being in a little bit more upright torso position is going to ultimately benefit you during the transition when you go to catch the weight and come around. So that's why we'll give up a little bit of strength. And really, you'll be able to deadlift, 30% more than you can clean for most people, maybe even more. So then again, coming through, and this is a good opportunity to practice your hook grip. So you wrap your thumb around the bar and then you get your middle finger around the thumb and you grab on like that. This will really help you get a little bit better grip and have it so that your grip is never going to be the limiting factor on your Olympic lifts. So I get in position here, I pull myself down, pull the shoulders down, brace the abdominals, load up the hamstrings, and then I think about the first part of the pull coming up to the knee. You can see the torso angle doesn't change much. I'm still leaning forward. And then once I get past the knee, then I sweep the bar into my hip. As I drive my hip forward a little bit, my knees come forward a little bit, and then I finish through to full extension of the hips and knees. So in the second part, I'm getting the bar into the sweet spot, into my hips, while keeping a little bit of potential here, because when I go to do my clean, this is going to be a much stronger position to drive from than just this here. So I've got a little bend in the knee and hip in the second phase, and then finishing through the third phase, and we're kind of doing it in reverse on your way down. That's your clean deadlift. Band wide pulls in a squat. So this one's going to really work on your strength and mobility while at the bottom of your overhead squat or at the bottom of your snatch. So you're going to come down, get into your squat, you hook a band around at about hip height or a little higher, and then you're just going to pull it back into your overhead position, and then do repetitions here. And yeah, it's not only going to be challenging the depth of your squat and being able to hold that position for a while, but also your ability to pull the bar back and keep the bar back, stabilize it back, not letting it fall forward when you're snatching. Cable chops are next. So if you had a cable machine, you can use this, use the cable machine for this, and use the rope attachment. I don't have one in here, so I'm showing you another way you can do it. And I have these rings, so I'm just tying it onto some rings. But really, the principle is you're having a weight overhead that you're having to work to drive downward, and in a diagonal fashion. So for this one, I like to set up with a wide base. I'm reaching my arms overhead to one side to start, and then I'm going to drive the weight down to my opposite side. And notice that I'm not turning my hips or shoulders into this. I'm reaching my arms across and then pulling it down to my side. And if you look from the side, my arm is overhead here. It's outstretched from my body here, and then I come down to the hip here. So the elbows are staying straight. Great core exercise. Shoulders too. Barbell bicep curls. So I can just imagine that this is a barbell. And if you had one of those cambered bars that has so when you grab it, it's angling your wrists like that. Those are really good if this happens to bother your wrist with a straight bar. But the idea is here just to have your arms stretched, your palms straight out from your shoulder, not too wide and not too narrow, and then you're just curling it up here. Now with your curls, you don't want to get rounded and shrugged, which tends to happen, and we start to rock a little bit. And actually, I would rather rock than to resort to a rounded and shrugged position. A little bit of rock is not necessarily bad, you know, if you're to stabilize here, it's not just your biceps, your pecs and your lats and your traps have to be active, and your abs have to be active too. So think of this as really a full upper body and core exercise. Okay, good. We got hollow rocks next. Get onto your mat, and this is where I'm going to crunch my arms up, crunch my chest up, reach my arms down my side, lift my legs, point my toes, flex my glutes, and then I'm just going to roll here on the small of my back. So I'm going to try to make like a little bowl shape of the small, out of the small of my back, and then just have really good control, not having to do a lot of change in hip angle or in spine angle as you're doing that, just trying to stay really tight. Then you just flip around for the next one, and it's pretty much the opposite. Palms up, squeeze the shoulder blades together, and then you're just kind of making a bowl shape out of your abdominals so that you can roll real nice and smooth, and not having to do a lot of rocking with our back or extra extending of the hips as we go. Trying to stay tight. Side plank leg lifts are next, and you can come from your elbow, you can bring your hips forward, head back, and then you just lift the top leg. Make sure to get both sides on that. And then the last one for today is a bent over reverse fly. Using dumbbells, you can start with your feet together, shoot your hips forward, brace your abdominals, and then squeeze your shoulder blades together and have the weights go out to the side, just like so. Make sure to have good posture as you're doing this exercise, not rounded and shrugged. This one, think about actually arching your back. That's a big part of this exercise. So, great, and that's the strength work for session 3. The next thing you'd want to do is go on to your cardio, but I'm going to talk about all the cardio exercises in another video.